Are you in the market to protect your bed and the gear within it? Well, look no further than the premium solution, which is the BAKFlip F1 by BAK Industries. Stay tuned to learn more. All right, so guys, we have the BAKFlip F1 here on the table, and with BAK, we actually have none other than Chris Fleeman. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, Steven, doing awesome, man. Thanks for having us in the garage.
Yes, sir, thanks for coming in. Guys, with that said, let's go and get this unboxed and show you what comes in the kit. Okay, so we have everything laid out here on the table. Chris, what can you tell us about what comes in the packaging?
Well, Steven, first off, we have the tonneau cover. That's the most important part of the project.
Yeah.
From there, we have the rails. These will attach to the truck and secure the tonneau cover to your truck. And here we have the hardware kit. This here will contain everything we need to install the cover.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the F1 itself. What makes the F1 the F1?
Well, the F1 is our premium tonneau cover. It's the top of the line for the BAK Industries BAKFlip line. The most important thing is it's got a 400-pound weight capacity. It's also got the FRP top skin. The great thing about the FRP is it holds up really well to dents and dings and scratches. It's just a premium tonneau cover from BAK Industries.
All right, so Chris, before we get this installed and in place and make it permanent, are there any things that we should know before we get this stuck on here?
Yeah, just a few quick tips on this Tundra here especially. This is a pretty narrow bulkhead, so you'll make sure you get it right in the center of it, maybe a little bit inward to the bed of the truck, just to make sure it's got a good fitment on there. If you did have an older truck that didn't have these factory bed caps on, you may want to use a different type seal, or if you had one with the bulkhead cap on the top of it, we'll provide a thinner seal for those applications.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this application started. So what we're going to do, what you don't want to do, first of all, let me go ahead and preface with that, is remove the entire backing to this double-sided tape. That can be kind of a mess, so what you want to do instead is just peel a little bit off at a time. That way it's a lot more manageable, especially as you're applying it along the bulkhead. So just pull off a little bit at a time, get it started. Like Chris was saying, sort of towards the middle of the bulkhead, but a little closer to the bed. And then simply peel as you need it. So that's going to allow me to have a lot more control over where I'm laying the seal.
Steven, as we get a little closer, I'll show you a couple tricks over here on how to make sure you get this thing lined up on this side over here.
Okay.
You want to make sure where this bed cap comes up, you get a good seal all the way to the edge there. If not, you may have a little water get into your truck bed. So the first thing we want to do is just kind of mark this here, and then we'll take our razor blade.
Okay.
We'll just cut this. And it's always good to cut it a little bit longer if you need to.
That's a good point.
A little bit shorter. It's okay if it's kind of crinkled up like that.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, easy enough. All right, so the bulkhead seal is in place and installed correctly. What we're going to want to do now is move on to the rails. So before we get started with the rails, Chris, what can you tell us about this process?
Well, Steven, I point out a couple things here. This little right angle here actually sits on top of the bed of the truck.
Okay.
So what that does is it helps transfer the weight of the cover or anything you may have on it to the actual bed of the truck. Where a lot of the other guys out there will just have a flat surface here.
Yeah.
And it requires a clamp to hold 100% of the weight. With ours, we transfer it to the bed of the truck so you get a lot stronger setup.
Awesome, very good.
Now, one thing here you'll notice also on the front, we got this little bumper pad. And on this Tundra application, this here will just sit right up here and go all the way to the front. And if you'll notice, it'll be right to the edge of the rear. It's probably best to do it with a tailgate shut. That way you can just make sure you got it in the right spot.
All right, so the rail is in place. Chris, before we get these clamps installed, is there any kind of general tips you should give us before we get this started?
Yeah, on the Tundra, it's pretty easy to put these clamps. Now, one thing is this Tundra does not have the track system. If you do have the track system, you'll need a different application that has the T on the end of it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. This one does not have the track system. So what we'll do here is we'll just kind of put the first clamp roughly in this place here.
Okay.
Make sure you keep the bolt head facing you, that way you can tighten it up easily.
Yes, sir.
Steven, on this last one, a good place to line it up is just kind of with the stake pocket here. You want to get pretty close to the rear of the truck.
Alrighty, I think that's got it.
All right, now that we got them all snug, then we'll do the final tightening.
Sure.
The biggest thing here you want to do is the way that right angle sits on top of the bed rail like I was showing you earlier.
Yep.
You want to make sure that's good and tight. So now's when you just want to kind of pop down on it, push down on it good, and go ahead and do that final half turn to get it good and tight.
All right, so guys, now that the rails are installed, what we're gonna do first before we put on the cover, we're actually gonna feed through the drain tubes through a pre-drilled slot in our truck. So what we're gonna do, go ahead and install this. There's a slot right on the rail that you'll simply push that into, that easy. What we're using to remove this seal is we're gonna use just a standard pick and feed through there. Get one edge lifted up, go around and give your finger just a spot to grab onto, and then just pull. Just like that. Now I have a place for a drain tube to run. Another thing that you may want to do is, rather than remove these completely, is maybe drill a hole in this so you don't have all this empty space, but rather you can drill a hole that's pretty much the diameter of the tube there.
Steven, this is a great time if you got a buddy to give you a hand to set the cover up on the truck. You can do it by yourself, but you know, it's always a little easier when you got that friend.
For sure.
At this point, we just want to set it about 5 or 6 inches from the front of the truck. And then we're gonna open it up and we'll take this panel here and slide it forward.
All right guys, so with the elevator bolt in hand, again, go ahead and prep it with that rubber washer. You'll see the slot here that we're gonna put this in. This is towards the cab of the truck. You're gonna see a pre-drilled slot here specifically for the elevator bolt. Go ahead and feed that through, and it's gonna connect with the rails below. And with that done, you can then lift up this portion. And what we're gonna do is lift it in such a way that the weight of the cover is pushing on the elevator bolt. And what that's gonna do, that's gonna give us larger access to the threads because the cover is pushing down on the threads or pushing down on the bolt, which is ultimately gonna give us that extra space that we need to apply the rest of the elevator bolt. Okay, so if you see the threads, what I'm gonna do, rather than put them on individually, I'm gonna go ahead and make a kind of a little sandwich of the rubber up top, the metal in the middle, and then the lock on the bottom, and have that star nut handy as well. All right guys, so the elevator bolts have been installed and they're connected to the rails now. What we're gonna do is unfold the cover and check our alignment. All right, Chris, it looks like the cover is pretty well aligned. What's the next step involved?
Well, the next thing we want to do is open the cover up. Be a little careful not letting it adjust. This way, now we're going to go ahead and do that final tightening on our star nuts, and we'll have the cover fully installed on the truck. And we got a couple more things. It'll be final stages, and we'll have this baby ready to go. Now, Steven, one thing to remember is you don't want to over tighten this bolt, but you want to get it good and snug. You just don't want it to where the elevator bolt's starting to compress the cover from the top. Get us to that point, we're good to go.
All right, so the next part of the installation is, well, we want to protect the investment we have in our truck, so we have these cab bumpers that we're going to be installing. Chris, before we get these installed on the cover, what should we know?
Well, Steven, the first thing you want to check out is what kind of rear window you have in your truck. This one here is a solid window, so this one's pretty straightforward. You'll do one in the center and then one on each side.
Okay. If
you want to have a slider, you kind of want to see where the cover is going to integrate into that windshield and kind of split them up that way.
All right guys, so I think that's a wrap. Chris, what can you tell us about the cover itself? How does it work?
First off, I'm gonna point out how good this thing looks on this truck. Man, this red and black on this Tundra looks awesome. Again, this is our premium tonneau cover at the BAKFlip lineup. This is our F1. It's got the FRP top skin. Now, let's show you how this thing works. First off, you open the tailgate. We have these quick release latches. And we have one at each panel position here. Now, this here has got our new buckles that we have on the trucks. Okay. Now you can ride with it in this point here. You'll just unsnap this here, clip your buckle in. We'll pull that good and tight. And now you're ready to ride with the truck like this. So let me show you how this actually works. You pull this latch here again. Now we've already put the cab bumpers on, so we let this rest against the rear of the truck. And we take our prop rides that we just installed. We just slide those in here. We loosen our star nut. We kind of wedge this down here. We tighten that up. Now you can travel in here, got your truck bed back for what you intended it to have it for. That's what makes the BAKFlip a great option. When you need to use your truck, you can, or if you need to protect your cargo, you can do that as well. Stephen, we got this cover installed. Let me show you how to close it. Let's get this thing back to its owner so they can enjoy this truck. It's pretty simple. You just close it. At this point here, you'll unbuckle this clip, stow it into the, then you will just close it. Again, these are slam latches, so it's easy to operate. At this point here, you want to make sure your tailgate is closed first, and then you'll just close the cover. You're good to go. Now, one thing to always remember, if you have the tailgate lock from the factory, once you lock this, your cargo is secure, safe, and out of the elements.
All right, guys, so this concludes this episode of In the Garage. Thank you again, Chris, for coming in and helping us with this installation.
Stephen, thanks for having us in the garage.
Yes, sir, anytime. It's always a pleasure. Guys at home, if you want more details on this product, check below in the description. We're gonna have all that laid out there for you, as well as a dealer locator, so you can find this product at a location near you. Thanks again for tuning in. This has been Total Truck Center's In the Garage.